Picture this. You're watching an old cartoon, and you wonder to yourself, how exactly is this made? Well, that's where this magical topic comes into play. Introducing animation cells. Cells are what we used before computers, and were transparent sheets with one side being inked and the other being painted to create a single frame of animation. This process involved taking a picture of it on film or other systems, then swapping out one frame and putting in another. Did it take an extremely long time? Yes. Was it killed when we made computers cheaper and affordable? You bet. Cell animation is a lost art, as newer and cheaper ways to animate took over. But there's something special about it. It's a very human thing to want to own something you like, and myself getting into animation cell collecting, I see the appeal. It's great to see something you like, and then realize you can flat out buy it and just have it as a part of your collection. One of the major causes of this art form dying was because of video games. Wow, who knew that advancing technology would get rid of something because it's much easier to do? With the advent of technology came the ability to show video on all sorts of platforms, which introduced the idea of using animation as one of those mediums to use. But this is where things get interesting. Even though video games and associated technologies led to the demise of animation cells, there are actually quite a few that take advantage of the animation medium. It is a bit harder to tell games apart even with a keen eye, but basically, cell animation is not as crisp looking, it looks a bit toned gray for lack of a better term, and generally can't animate effects like really smooth zooms or pans. Of course, the largest indicator is that there are actually cells of it that exist. Some of these games include Laserdisc games like Dragon's Lair, which I won't be covering immediately, because you can have a whole damn video about Laserdisc games. What a great idea, me! Thanks for the future episode! But this video is primarily a generalized scoop of video games that use cell animation as a medium, some as simply as an opening, or some as complex as making the entire game. You'll see what I mean. Anyway, let's start with a really fun one that has a deep bond in it. So let's start with a series everybody knows about. You know Mega Man, right? Who doesn't? Apparently Capcom. Well, I can't wait for this section to be not very evergreen when you guys are playing Mega Man X12 and Mega Man 23. But back when Capcom made new Mega Man games instead of compilations, Mega Man as it premiered on PlayStation had a whole slew of budget behind it. Mega Man 8, along with the X spin-off series X3 and X4, had a whole collaboration of animation with them, with varying scopes of how much animation they wanted to put into it. Let's start with the one that came out first, Mega Man X3. This was just a CD version of the Super Nintendo game that added brand new cutscenes that were cell animated. These varied from a completely new opening with a mishmash of X1 and X2 content, but also some cutscenes for the Mavericks that you fight, the stages afterwards, and the ending, kinda. The ending is just the original game's ending, but with some video that you can barely see in the corner, kinda. Neat! Now, there's not really anything that advanced about this, but it is kinda neat to see, like, oh, look, basic cell animation added on top of a game that didn't have it. Simple as, it's pretty cool. However, Mega Man 8 and X4 are when things start to get a bit more intense. One thing that the X3 animated cutscenes didn't have was using the medium to tell its story. X3 didn't even have voice acting in it. It was just solely animation, and an auto cameo. 8 and X4 decided to have dedicated cutscenes to explain the story. Now yes, the English dub is horrible, but, as funny as it is, that's not the point. For now. But you can laugh at them. It's neat to see Capcom actually use the medium to tell the story, and it transfers quite well over. There's even a spot in X4 where two characters, Zero and Colonel, fight, but it's completely animated, as opposed to a boss fight when you play as X. Unfortunately, actually finding cells for these games is really difficult. A lucky fan found a giant box of Mega Man 8 cells one day, so lucky for you! Way to go! Congrats! We also do have some screenshots of X4 cells that surfaced a few times. We also learned that the game chopped the animation into a widescreen look. Why'd they do that?
That's a good question.
Wish I had an answer. Now you may be saying, are you sure that's it? What about Super Adventure Rockman? That's not cell animated. It's either digital ink or fully digital. No idea which. I also would like to point out that the cell animated games would be the games that start Capcom's interest with the animation studio that did these games' cutscenes, Xebec, now known as Sunrise Beyond. Xebec animated tons of classic anime, like Sorcerer Hunters, despite its ending, Martian successor Nadesco, despite its ending, Ladies vs. Butlers, I don't even know what that is, but they did it, and oh, yeah! Every single animated content for Mega Man since these games. That's right, the Battle Network and Star Force anime, Day of Sigma, and even other animated cutscenes in Maverick Hunter X, all of them were done by Xebec. Okay, so maybe it's not every Mega Man thing, it's not like they did every commercial too, but they did have a very long-standing relationship with Capcom. Isn't that cute? Now, if Sunrise Beyond was helping Capcom on the next Mega Man game or something, that would rule. I think that would rule. Hey, speaking of rules, let's talk about the next series. Next game I wanted to talk about is a game that I like that most of you probably don't even know exists. Crime Crackers is a dungeon crawler series, with the first game actually being a launch title for the PlayStation 1 in Japan. I guess you could say this series had a little bit of an influence on me. This series doesn't do anything spectacular with its cell animation. The first game barely had it in the first place. It was only used for the ending animation. The second game, however, does what Mega Man 8 and X4 did. They used a lot of the animation to show off the story. Too bad I can't understand it, because this game is only in Japanese. So you may be asking, okay, sure, this game series was animated with cells. Why is this such a big deal that you gave it spotlight in this video? Well, besides it being very cute, and I really like the art in these games, I own cells for it. That's it, really. It's honestly not a huge pride and joy, but I have some background on this one. I found this in the unlabeled cells area of Yahoo JP Auctions, so the seller didn't know the origin. Now, I can't just message the seller and be like, yeah, that's Potpourri Vamp from the bonus ending animation of Crime Crackers 2, since I don't know Japanese. But I can buy it and have it. Both cells I currently have are from Crime Crackers 2, but if any cells of one end up on the internet, oh, you bet I'll get them. The character designer for Crime Crackers 1 and 2, Masato Kanemono, aka Kokomai or Kokomai. You'll have to forgive me, the sources don't match up, but I think it's Kokomai. Anyway, Kokomai posts tons and tons of images of cells from the first game on Twitter, or whatever it's called now. I'm guessing he wouldn't be willing to part with them. Some of these cells would be killer to have, though. But I love Lieza just as much as Kokomai does, so I doubt I'd get one of her. Damn. Anyway, it seems that this was animated by Studio Sign, a side studio that helps with production assistance for other projects. It's amazing what you can find on the internet, but this could be completely wrong, and the credits on Moby Games flat out told me bad information. Nobody would really do that, just put lies on the internet. Of course, I could be completely wrong and someone will correct me in the comments. If you do so politely, I'll pin the correction. Oddly enough, Mediavision, the developers, should have some connections with Madhouse due to another game they made, Wild Arms. Why didn't Mediavision ask Madhouse to do it?
That's a good question.
Oh well, we may never know. Alright, enough of this shit, let's talk about a series everybody knows about. Now here's one everyone should know. The Dragon Ball series had tons of releases out on the 32-bit machines, and boy howdy did they use cells. So sure, there's 3D games like Final Bout that still have 2D animations as an opening, but you guys want more, I get it. Like, oh, they told the story in Mega Man, you own the cells and Crime Crackers, I don't give a damn, show me why this one's cool. Okay, let's get to that reason then. Ultimate Battle 22 on the PlayStation seems like it's a crappy looking game, with those weird choppy sprites. It really makes you think that there was something else going on with its animations. But hey, maybe a more fluid-looking game by the same developers like Shin Butoden on the Saturn can make us see something better. After all, these games are basically sprites, but it has cel-animated openings. There's no way it... Ah! Well, would you look at that? That's right. Shin Butoden and Ultimate Battle 22 were actually animated in-game with cells. It looks like both games took them and basically photocopied them in. Like Mortal Kombat, but instead of playing dress-up, they overwork an animation studio. Well, I hope they didn't. Both games were developed by Tosei. It turns out every cell online is made for both games, but Ultimate Battle 22 is absurdly choppy, whereas Shin Butoden is incredibly not choppy, and it's a hell of a lot easier to find the cells for Shin Butoden due to the abundance of animation frames in-game. Hell, I even thought the cells I did find were from Ultimate Battle 22, even when people listed them as being from Ultimate Battle 22. But they all seem to be from Shin Butoden. It was really fun rewriting this entire section of the script because I messed up, and everyone was wrong, including myself. But hey, I learned my lesson and didn't trust my knowledge at face value. I was able to compare the cells I found with sprite sheets online, and yeah, they are without a doubt in Shin Butoden, but basically absent from Ultimate Battle 22. Weird stuff. If you are insane enough to actually play these games, I would definitely say Shin Butoden is up there. This is a really fun game, even though I don't know how to play it very well. Ultimate Battle 22, I think you're better off staying away from that one. In that game, everyone's names are trademarked or registered, like Goten trademark, Kid Trunks registered, and Vegetto trademark. Wait, that's Gogeta. Why did they do that?
That's a good question.
Also, it should go without saying, but all of these were animated by Toei. Or at least some studio they overworked as a side hustle. Well, I hope they didn't. But if they did, classic Toei. Anyway, that's it. So those are some examples of video games with cell animation in them. Like I said, there's tons more that I want to cover, but what are some you'd be curious about? I know all the games featured in this video are Japanese, but what are some American or European ones that you know about? Don't be afraid to suggest some in the comments. As I stated before, there's a lot to cover with this, and I'm definitely able to do more for another episode. I may as well make more episodes of this before a larger YouTuber steals this idea and makes a video like this, except it sucks, and it's not even remotely passionate. Of course, perhaps you're interested in the nostalgia factor with these. Perhaps you wanted something a little more retro to come and check out. Why don't you check out my video games then? Necrolepsy is an action platformer that's available on Steam, and Draco Blood is an action RPG that's a high-octane inspiration of this time period that's currently in development. You can see more at Draco Blood's Patreon below. But of course, I'm open to any suggestion you guys and gals have, so don't be afraid to suggest some titles below. With that, catch you all next time on another video. I'm glad you wasted your time. You're welcome.